Hello everybody, welcome to the video. Thanks for checking it out. Today we're going to be going over how I painted the Titanite demon for the Dark Souls board game. I've started by priming it black and then basing it with a all-over dry brush of Necromancer Cloak. I'm doing this dry brush over like 80% of the model, leaving just the darkest underside recesses completely black. You can see it kind of brightens it up just a little, add a little bit of definition to it. The next dry brush we're going to do is a dry brush of dark stone from the Army Painter. I'm going to use this dry brush over probably 60-70% of the model, staying mostly on the larger parts that are facing towards the sun or where your light source is going to be hitting it. So being sure to not go underneath the model or hit things that we want to keep a little darker. Be using a medium dry brush from Citadel. It's working out pretty well for me. So yeah, we're going to use this dark stone dry brush over about 60% of the model. The next thing we're going to do is do our last dry brush with the stone colors using Citadel's Dawn Stone, kind of a lighter, still kind of mid-tone grayish, because he is made of Titanite, so it is a mineral after all. This is going to be more of a zenithal dry brush, so probably about 40 to 50% of the model will have this dry brush, really making sure we stick to the areas that we want to be very bright. So that's going to be the top of the model, the top of the chest and the arms, the ridges of that tail where the light would catch it just directly on top, right over the top of the shoulders, and then the top of the horns. You're not going to do very much underneath the horns because the light wouldn't really hit that and reflect. So just make sure to keep it just to where the light's going to be hitting it. And then once you finish, we'll move on to our next step. This next step is going to be to add some metallics to the model. So we're going to start off with Gunmetal by the Army Painter. We're going to use this, we're going to dry brush this over 40% of the model. Pretty much where you put the Dawn Stone, you want to go directly over that with the Gunmetal, covering the Dawn Stone almost completely, and that's going to give the model a nice metallic shine, but still leave that stony mineral look underneath, and it'll leave the dark parts, like all the recessed parts, nice and shaded, and it'll add a lot of texture to this model. The next dry brush highlight we're going to do is with Plate Mail by Army Painter, just a slightly lighter metallic tone. We're going to do this, it's going to be on maybe 20 to 30% of the model, so a lot less, sticking to mostly the raised edges. So that's going to be like right over where his neck stump is, the tops of the shoulders, the very tops of the arms, anything that's directly, like the sun would be coming directly down on top of. So right over the top of the sharpest part of the horns. And just make sure to not go too heavy with it. It really depends on how bright you want this model to be. I want this to be really light on the top and then have that tone darken down as you go down the model. So be pretty sparing with it. This next step, we're going back to Gunmetal, and we're going to paint the staff completely with Gunmetal, making sure to avoid the areas that we've already done. I'm using a medium base brush, so I have good control. And if you need to, switch to a smaller brush when you get closer to the hand, just so you don't accidentally hit some of the details you've already done. Okay, the model's looking great. We're about 90% done, maybe 95. We have one last detail to do, and that's to put some dark red into the lettering or the carvings or etchings, whatever that is, on his neck stump. So I'm using Corn Red by Citadel, a nice like dark red tone. I'm using a very small brush. Make sure you water it down so that it kind of slides nicely into the recesses. And just take your time. Don't rush it. If you do mess up and go over some of the areas that you've already done, just go back in with some gunmetal and plate mail just to brighten it back up and let the red seep into the recesses. You could do 2 coats of this if you want it to be a little more vibrant. It just depends on how well, how good your coverage is when you're in there. And after this, the last thing to do is to paint the base however you want. I'm going to be doing just a flat black all the way through, and then we're done. There we go. The model is done. It looks really cool, very striking, very textured, and it's going to look great with all the rest of the miniatures for the Dark Souls board game. Thanks for watching.